Legends of the Round Table is a new game about the definitive tale of medieval Western Europe, the legends of King Arthur. This game asks you to be your best self, full of chivalry and valor. It is jam-packed with lovingly hand-painted backgrounds in the style of medieval manuscripts, and it sends you on a journey to defend the realm against gruesome Saxon invaders and conquests only the most well-suited of knights can overcome. You have to brave terrible challenges and make sure that you do so while safeguarding your honor. In this video, I will tell you why you should check out the game, what to expect, including some hiccups, and what stands out. We are first going to talk about what Arthurian legends are to begin with, then what this game is all about and what makes it special, and finally about its actual mechanics. All of that so that you know what to expect when you jump in. But let me say one thing right away. If you like the Middle Ages at all, you have to give this game a shot. King Arthur's legends, whether you know them by heart or not, have never been depicted with this much sincerity, beauty and dedication, while still giving the player plenty of freedom to make their own choices. King Arthur's tales, for anybody not familiar, are the quintessential epic of Western Europe, really quite comparable in impact and concept to the Romans of the Three Kingdoms in East Asia. King Arthur is a folkloric hero and king of the Britons during the era of Saxon invasions, shortly after the fall of the Roman Empire. His virtue and skill are tested regularly as his realm finds itself in an era of incredible hardship for his good and righteous people. In short, these are about a utopian kingdom that is doomed to fall. But nonetheless, within are stories of all the bravest people. Over the centuries, peaking in the late Middle Ages, more and more tales are written that deal with King Arthur and his knights, solving often fantastical issues that require feats of strength and cunning that are seemingly impossible. And yet, the knights succeed. All of the tales are really instructions and cautionary tales for how an ideal Christian knight and king should act to remain in God's light. They were born and refined in the Middle Ages and express how knighthood, honor, nobility and of course love were perceived by their writers. These stories have been turned into books, movies and even games for literal centuries after the end of the Middle Ages. There are movies like Indiana Jones or Monty Python's Holy Grail. We can find them in Wagner's pieces and all kinds of books, but virtually always the stories are adapted to suit the ideas and views of our time. It's good, really, because culture and art are living, breathing things that develop and change. This way, the stories live on beyond the concept of knighthood. However, in Legends of the Round Table, it's all a little bit different. First and foremost, the game is a role-playing game in which you lead the Knights of the Round Table shortly before and then after King Arthur has ascended the throne. You get to tackle the challenges the knights face with a mix of point-and-click gameplay, knight management, a card game, and turn-based combat. What makes this game so unbelievably special is a single choice that the creators have made. The entire story, the tales, the quests, the art, even the mechanics and the knights are depicted through the lens of the late Middle Ages. Everything you see and interact with stands in service of bringing a story to life, as told and understood by the people that wrote it. I can't say I've ever seen a game like this in my entire life. Legends of the Round Table asks one simple and incredibly compelling question. What if the artists of old, those that conceived of these Arthurian legends, created a video game? As you play the game, you will find that everything in it immerses you through its conscious and careful design. The entire game occurs in a book that you are reading with handcrafted art and UI symbols as color and playful as any real medieval manuscript would be. The knights ride out on their quests equipped as if they are participating in an illustrious tournament rather than going to war. This is, for after all, these stories gained traction when a performative and rich culture of knighthood was at its peak. King Arthur, for example, is not dressed like a historical king of the Britons would have been dressed at the times of the Saxon invasions, but rather as medieval writers imagined him. All of this comes together into a package that is unique and immersive in a way few other games are. Immersion here is not just a buzzword limited for the presentation and visuals of the game, but instead fully penetrates every last mechanic and button press that you can make. The game tells you the story of King Arthur and his knights, that's true, but it is also an instruction on what makes a righteous knight noble and what would dishonor him. Because remember, this is what the legends ultimately were all about: chivalry. How to live a godly life as a knight. And so, contrary to your natural impulses as a gamer to smash any challenge coming your way with all the force you got, you should probably reconsider. For example, multiple of your knights attacking the same enemy knight in the same turn, no matter how much they harmed you and your companions, is dishonorable and will be a blemish on the attacking knight's honor directly. Similarly, enemy knights will often surrender, and when they do, it is best to accept it, for striking down a surrendering man is a grave shame. The lesson here is something that will make you rethink your gameplay style. You are not meant to win no matter the cost, but to discern your knights as noble and virtuous, so that Providence itself can lead them to victory. The end goal really is for the kingdom to survive as well as it can, and of course, to inspire confidence in King Arthur's rule by earning honor through your quests and battles. I really struggled with this section, because I normally cover art and immersion last in these kinds of reviews. They are more often than not just superficial. But the game is filled to the brim with sincerity that guides your actions through the battles that you will have to fight to protect the kingdom. In literally every way, it follows medieval expectations. The design here makes it so that the art and view of the world carries itself through your entire gameplay experience. It creates a window into the past that is very difficult to come by in any other media. The game takes itself and its subjects, the minds of medieval poets and knights, incredibly seriously. And this is something beautiful given just how common dark medievalism is. Normally the Middle Ages are depicted as terrible and often overly brutal time period. This game takes a piece of art from that period and really honors it. So basically, in short, it's insanely hard for me to stop gushing over just what a phenomenal labor of love this game really is, because it is so incredibly rare. If you want to understand what these legends were all about when they were written, then this game should be your #1 stop. Now, with that out of the way, what do you actually do in the game? Most of your time will be spent out and about on major quests. For this purpose, you select a number of knights from your round table and select one of the available quests. All quests follow the storyline of one of the tales of the Arthurian legends. The game even goes so far as to highlight from which work and year a quest is sourced. You select a quest to go on almost every year. We'll get to the exceptions in a bit. Quests begin with a cinematic, followed by you and your squad being thrown right into the action. For most of it, you will be riding around the side-scrolling level, talking to people, entering buildings and interacting with various objects. Narration and dialogue are read to you by Anna Zema of the Boston Camerata and includes beautiful songs as well. Each adventure is quite unique. Despite each one calling for a certain number of knights, for example, you won't necessarily be making your way through the quest with a full squad. Sometimes you have only a primary knight who gets support from his comrades in his dreams, whereas on other occasions one of your knights is taken away early on. This means that while the questing format stays the same, every quest brings some new challenges to the table and forces you to rethink your approach. Some adventures are relatively low on supernatural elements, whereas others are positively drenched in them. Yet again, some are quite heavy on fights and require your strongest warriors, while others are mostly built from individual challenges like convincing certain characters to help you. Now in these quests, whenever a confrontation or a certain level of skill is required, the game will throw a challenge at you. These are quite unique, as they are neither a simple skill requirement nor a dice roll. Rather, you utilize the skill of a knight, mix them with a situation, so if, for example, you already achieved a great deed previously in that quest, you may get a positive modifier, and then you get to choose one card from your hand. For most challenges that you will find, and this is the big one, you will not actually know what kind of score you need to reach to pass. When you combine that you need to feel it out and trust your gut a little bit with the fact that you can only ever enhance your score with one of the 5 cards that you hold in your hands at that moment, the whole system comes together. It might mean that you feel strong and powerful one moment as you have a Holy Grail card. These are huge and can give you a bonus between 14 and 24, which can single-handedly win you many challenges, to the next moment when all your cards are incredibly low, not really giving you many options, maybe forcing you to fail a challenge. The card system is entertaining, and while initially really overwhelming, I'll admit it, it allows the player to grow more confident and bold in their decisions over time. Quite similar to a chivalrous knight, the card system guides a player into trusting their destiny, as they choose whether a 5 or a 10 will be enough to pass the challenge at hand. Different from a dice system, which always feels like chance is the main thing that is at play, it is instead simply providence. Of course, I don't want to keep it a secret from you that you will also gain access to Merlin's support throughout the campaign, allowing you to craft and cast spells that can, for example, give you a completely new set of cards, should you so desire. So, while the system pushes you towards your destiny as you encounter a hard challenge that seems insurmountable, sometimes Providence may have it wrong, and one of Merlin's magic tricks can turn things around. Now, the way quests go can vary extremely. Depending on how you do, your knights can simply die or carry a long-lasting wound from a fight. They may also acquire powerful artifacts and weaponry, enhancing their abilities going forward. Most importantly, however, depending on how well you did on each quest, you earn glory. These glory points are pivotal to attract great knights and many men-at-arms, willing to fight and die against Arthur's numerous enemies. I don't really want to spoil any of the quests here, which sucks, because that is what the game is all about, but I want to encourage both players that are and those that are not familiar with the Arthurian legends to play the game. As you make your way through a quest, you will learn a lot about what virtues and pitfalls the tales were all about, and I have always found myself googling these tales right after. Most tales, for example, have various versions, and learning about the one in the game and comparing it to its siblings will quickly get you acquainted with the tales of Arthuriana. All in all, these quests are imaginative and a lot of fun. The downsides for the major quests, which are, like I mentioned, also the core gameplay part of the game, is that everything will initially feel a bit overwhelming. With how lovingly crafted the interface is, it isn't perfectly intuitive, it requires some getting used to. Similarly, the mechanics are complex enough that I couldn't possibly explain all of them here to you, but I promise that once you have done 1 or 2 quests, you will be fully into it, and it will start feeling like second nature. But it is something that takes some time. The game also features amazing performances of real medieval poetry, such as this snippet right here.
Dame jolie, pour Dieu, n'apparence mieux, que nul signorie, sœur moins fort, vous seulement. Et comme ma maladie guérie ne sera nullement sans vous de son ennemi qu'il y est de mon tourment.
With every year that passes in the game, major quests or major battles will challenge your knight's skills, and you get to collect glory for your king. My most earnest recommendation here is to obviously do as well as you can, but if you sometimes lose a knight, don't forsake your playthrough as a whole. I will admit I've reloaded quite a few times, but you can always find more other knights to serve on your table, turning a death into a new opportunity. During each quest, you can make smaller decisions like whether a poacher would be handed over to the bailiff again after assisting you or not. Similarly, do also keep in mind that you can alter the outcome of a quest significantly, sometimes not even finishing it in the way that it was told historically. That is how much freedom you get here. In the quest The Loathly Lady, for example, spoilers, there is a point where you get the opportunity to marry a terribly plagued woman, which is also how the tale truthfully was spun. I, however, only had married folk in my party and so had to strike the villain down with pure raw violence instead of getting the benefit of the lady. This lost all of my knights plenty of honor in the process, and frankly I was so lucky that I had enough magic to actually make that happen. And because of this, of course, the story in this tale was a different one from the historical one. Now, moving on from major quests, every year also features solo quests. Here, one of your knights will get to go on a text adventure. While much shorter than the major quests, you still very much need to pass challenges to succeed. Text quests generally are varied as well, although gameplay variation isn't nearly as big as it is in the major quests. But these are nice changes in pace that also help you learn even more about the tales of Arthuriana. Now, moving on yet again, every now and again, enemies of the king will challenge you, not just to overcome their perfidious plans on a quest, but also in major battles. Here, your knights and their men-at-arms are at the ready to fight and die for king and country. These battles can be pretty drawn-out affairs, and you will have an easier time if you did better in quests, as the amount of glory determines how many soldiers will rally to the side of your knights. In battles, you essentially need to succeed in a series of individual fights. You can fight all of these, or you can skip some of them and hope your knights will simply fare well, but in general, this is where you have the biggest extent of knight-on-knight violence. Remember, if you act dishonorable towards another knight, even if it is a fight to the death, your knight will be in worse standing than before. I love that part so much. Essentially, the ideal knight will never strike an unfair blow even if it costs them their lives. Because think about it, Providence alone should safeguard their lives, not underhanded tricks. This is a gimmick that subverts the general expectation we have in roleplay games, but that is entirely true to the expectations of chivalry. Away from that, there isn't too much that I need to tell you about the battles right now, other than that they are the conclusion to the questing your knights do, and are of course what every chivalrous man waits for, the opportunity to defend the realm. Now, lastly, let's talk about what happens between all of these main gameplay parts. Before and after you get questing and battling it out, you also have to manage your knights. This means that you must select who gets to go on upcoming quests, what the knights not going on quests do in the meantime, and recruit new knights should others either have perished during a quest, battle, or of old age. This element, I will be honest, is the worst part of the game. Not because it is actually bad, it's really solid agent management, like we are used to from games like XCOM, And once you dig into their stats, knights are also quite different. Additionally, you can get the lore on each individual knight as well as some interesting stats about them that can be useful to understand their role in the Arthurian canon. I also want to mention, as a map lover, that the map of Arthur's realm used to decide where to go questing is absolutely stunning. I love the throne room and the immersive yearly news coming from Merlin and Arthur's wife Guinevere. The negative here is simply in the usability. For the first few quests, you will be completely oblivious to what needs doing, where what buttons are, and which knights would be good for what adventure. You can see what skills are beneficial for a certain quest, sure, but which knights like each other, yes, this does play a role as well, and which ones are good at the required skills, well, there is no automatic indication. You have to check each one of them out. Similarly, you have to decide what a knight should do that doesn't go questing that year. Well, for that you either leave it to the game to decide randomly, or you really start learning what a knight is good at and so on. The good news here is that as you go on adventures and you get used to your knights and their abilities, you pick up on this and the system starts being fun and making sense. Suddenly, you will anticipate that a particularly rich knight will not be able to come on an adventure every year, even if he is amazing, as he must take care of his lands every so often, or that, for example, one knight loathes another, making them a bad pick for any adventure together. The moment it clicks, this phase starts feeling good, and you will actually be invested in training and recruiting new characters. But yeah, different from this regular gameplay that is fun even before it fully clicks, the knight management is just too cumbersome to be fun right away. Luckily, of course, it really isn't the big part of the gameplay anyway. And these mechanics are how you make your way through one campaign defending the realm. So, what can I say about the game in conclusion? This is an incredibly unique game that focuses on the medieval perspective and honors the art of the Middle Ages by depicting the tales and vision of the period as sincerely as humanly possible. It is breathtakingly gorgeous, immersive throughout, and lets you enjoy Arthurian legend like never done before. The game's weakest part is without a doubt the onboarding, but as you grow into the game, you become confident and bold in the risks you take, as if you yourself have become a chivalrous warrior. You just have to trust fate. The idealistic views of virtue and honor are seen in every single mechanic of the game, truly as if designed by the very writers of these tales. You simply have to pick this game up if you want to enjoy King Arthur's legends in bright colors and unbridled earnestness. The mechanics are fun, the game is gorgeous, and you will be ever richer as you overcome the challenges thrown at the Arthurian realm. And that is really all that I can tell you about it without spoiling it too much. Make sure to use the link in the description, pick up the game, and, well, happy questing! May your adventures be blessed. Folks, I'll leave you right here, and I will see you later, Alligator.